The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church,
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to today's edition of the Hotline Show. My name is Roger Studiabe, and it's a very great honor this evening to be here with you and the gentlemen who are joining me on set this evening to talk about an issue that is very close to all of us, but also very important and sensitive to the development of our communities and societies. Now, I have people who have been here before. One is Honorable Joseph Ochieno. He has been here almost every Monday. I think every Monday has been with us. He has dedicated his time to teach us a thing or two, to give us insights. His insights as a professional. He has had experience extensively in a number of issues, especially in this field of politics. So he's here with us yet again, and we have been joined by Mr. Tugume. He's going to also introduce himself a little bit, so you get to know him. He has been here before, some time back. It has been a while, but I'm going to give him an opportunity to introduce himself so you can know him some more. Now, today we're going to be talking about the issues of the roadmap, the Electoral Commission's roadmap for 2026 elections. What has been the changes, if there has been? How are you prepared as the people, but also the political parties that are in this town? Some people like to call Uganda town. So how are the political parties prepared in this whole process? Is it not too early for us to have a campaign's roadmap? Because as soon as the roadmap is out, most of the parties want to start to hit the ground to go campaigning around in the country. So is it not too early? Are we not going to be doing a lot of politicking as opposed to service delivery? These are some of the issues that we're going to be talking about this evening. And so I'm going to invite our new guest to introduce himself just a little about him, where he comes from, so you get to know him some more. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. I'm glad to be here this evening once again. Yes. My name is Gideon Tugume. I'm trying to mobilize many titles to my name because apart, I haven't been a honorable, which is very easy to define. So I try to bring many on my name. First of all, I'm the chairperson of Vulnerable People in Uganda. Secondly, I'm a human rights defender. And thirdly, I'm a Secretary General of a political party called the Forum for Integrity and Leadership Party. And thirdly, I'm a political commentator. I've been in the politics for the last 27 years. And I'm a member of National Consultative Forum. National Consultative Forum, this is an organization that brings together all the registered political parties. So, as such, at least whichever has been going on, I've been seeing, and more especially in terms of this kind of thing that came out, so-called the roadmap. So I'm glad to be here this evening, and I'm happy to have met my long-time colleague, Joseph. We were together in some political circles. I believe the viewers will really enjoy the show. I thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of us. Which vulnerable people again are you?
The vulnerable people, these are the people who cannot manage the situation of the current regime. For example, those ones who cannot be able to buy a new cloth in the year, those who cannot eat thrice, in a day, those who cannot manage even to have school fees for their children. There are those who, generally, they are in a very, very bad state. These are the people. I come up really to fight for them, to speak for them. These are speechless. They cannot be invited on digital TV to talk something. They cannot be given an opportunity. Even themselves even fear for themselves even to talk. So I just come up as the chairperson to be able to represent them at different forums so that their voice can be heard. So these are completely vulnerable people. We have the women, we have the disabled persons, we have got children, we have got even other people, even the men who cannot be able to talk for themselves. So I'm here for them, and that's I'm the chairperson.
So just one more question for clarity.
Yes.
How you don't look like someone who is vulnerable yourself? How do you represent them? Like you was not one of them?
No. I was once one of them. And so once one of them, I'm still for them. Because much as I got education, much as I am driving a car, much as I'm sleeping in the house, I know where I came from. So I cannot forget where I came from. Not only from my family, but from the community where I grew up. I have a village when you go to it now, right now. Imijera village is in Kakuru Town Council, is in Ruhama County and Tungama District. If you go there, I will show you that I used to pass in this same way when I was going to school, and it has never been done up to now. We are passing in the swamp. Children going to school, they are still passing in the same swamp. We never had clean water. We have cows. We used to go with the cows where they drink from is where we also used to get water. And that's what is still happening. So many people are still facing the same. So you can deceive yourself when you come to Kampala, sleep in a certain house, drive a car, and think that you are a rich man. No, you don't belong to Bagaga Kwagarana. Do you know Bagaga Kwagarana? This is an organization of rich people. They made themselves into an organization. Where do you belong? If you are not in that part of the organization, then you are this part of mine, where I am the chairperson. Okay. So please, we are all together. I think maybe Honorable could not be part of that at this particular time. But he has where he came from and his people, really. He must represent them. He must look into the issues that are affecting them. That's why we come up. We don't enjoy it, of course. When I call myself a vulnerable person, somebody says, you who puts on a suit? But this suit is just on top. I put it on simply because I'm trying to forget where I come from, but I cannot when my people are still facing the same. So we want to make a change to our people by talking their issues that affect them, by showing that really there is something missing so that we can be able to fix those issues. For example, if I can tell you now, look at the whole country is in darkness. At this particular time, it is 7, but people are entering into the houses because there is no solar, there is no electricity in the countryside. Water, as I told you, almost 78% of people have no clean water. And these are Ugandans. As I can talk right now, poverty is killing everybody completely. People have no clothing. I was told recently that people are going to school, children are going to school, girls, without knickers because they don't have money. Parents have no money. They completely don't have. People are suffering in the villages. People are facing a lot of challenges. And the moment we don't talk about those issues, then we are in a problem. We have 78% of people who don't brush their teeth. Do you know that? How do they avoid tooth decay? Who wants to know that?
That I did not know. But hopefully one of the discussions that we're making here is one of those that is towards making better communities.
Sure.
When we have the best candidates in political offices, things like those are the ones that change. You're welcome to the show, Honorable Ochieno.
It's my absolute pleasure. I just want to say that in absolute solidarity with my brother here, that I actually belong absolutely to that category. I have been in some of those spaces and possibly, in many cases, possibly worse. I normally talk about relative stability in terms of my family background, relative privilege in terms of my education, thanks to UPC from primary school, in terms of all the accesses. And as I said, thanks to my family, we're okay. But Our surroundings were purely that. In many cases, also, actually, people like to politicize some of their backgrounds. Museveni sometimes plays the victim. That's one of the reasons why sometimes, we find that he's possibly traumatized by some of his own lived past experiences, the way Obote sometimes would call it. But so sometimes some of these things actually affect our livelihood. But no, actually, this is breaking news. I am also a ghetto boy. I lived in the ghetto of Kamocha. By then, I lived in Rio Ghetto in Kamocha in I think two of my A-level school terms, possibly one, but two of my terms in A-level. I lived in Kamocha, where I went to pit latrine, a house which would sink at any time, two of us, with my a good friend Odoy, Emma, and yes, we went out down there. Water, I don't remember where we got the water, and it was absolutely terrible. That Kamosh at that place. So if it's about ghetto, I am also a ghetto boy. Interestingly, part of that ghetto thing, I think, as my friend he is saying, and as you trying to insinuate, it's absolutely one of the reasons why I'm absolutely solidly Uganda People's Congress, because in terms of our values, it rocks completely on that. But just very quickly, as we're coming to studios, I was talking to a friend. Police, please don't ask me. I was talking on the phone to hands-free, and I got an urgent call from London. We're stuck in Kampala traffic, really. So I took the call from my good a friend somewhere from abroad. And as I just finished the conversation, I told him that, look, these are things that harm my heart. 3 people, different vulnerabilities. The first one was a woman with a child in a wheelchair, followed by a guy holding on a woman who's blind, beggars. This time, none of them, the 3 were Karamojo people, without prejudice, they were clearly possibly not. And then the 4th one was a man who you could not tell major issues, but quite an old man, 3 of them begging. And I was telling this guy, can you imagine the huge amount of wealth being played around by a particular category, including Mabati thieves in Kampala, and we still have these people. And there is no ministry for culture, community development, we should be able to be engaged with this. So it's absolutely a whole ministry that should be dealing with that, rather than a ministry that is responsible for rolling out things that sweat up Mr. Museveni after 40 years.
All right. Those are things to I guess, to think about.
Yeah, maybe just to add a little, I was renting a house in Karerwe. Karerwe is in Kawempe South. So one time I failed to pay rent for a month, and the landlord came and removed the door. Then I went because there was a mat.
Rather lock him and remove it.
He removed the door. Then I put a mat on the door. Then when I came back, because I used to come around midnight once to avoid him seeing me, I found when the man had removed the iron sheets on the So there is a lot, by the way, that we have gone through that we need to really to share and to see how we can improve the lives of our people. Our people are suffering, completely suffering. And there is nobody can talk about it, by the way. Nobody talks about it. No, the government comes in and start talking, but they don't reach that kind of niche that really affects our people. For example, when I was moving around recently, they said, no, there is a parish development model which is going to help our people. And I always say, no, it will not. It will not completely. Because when you look at the selection of those to get, you can't even know. Even if you gave, by the way, 1 million to a vulnerable person, might even not know what to use for. Some of them have got even debts to almost, that almost is taking everything that they have. And so when you just give them some small money, they will just pay off the debts and remain the same. So I don't think that's the solution of which government can do for our people. So they need services. There is completely poor service delivery in this country, which would reach our own people, these vulnerable people, so that their lives can change. So in the whole sense of the fact, when you see where I've gone through, because me, I've sold pineapples, I've sold charcoal, I've sold chapatis at university. I used to sell chapati with tea, and in order for me to be where I am. So please allow me to put in a suit, look different, but I'm a vulnerable person.
All right, I think you've earned the right
Qualified.
to become a chairperson. You are
And you even obtained a new member. I'm a committee member.
All right, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Now, to begin with, I did notice that you are part of the launch of the next
Yes.
election, Electoral Commission
Yes.
roadmap and work plan. Just a highlight for someone who was present at that very function. What were the main pointers of that event?
I did not actually understand exactly. What I only understood is that I was invited and I was a part of the people who graced that occasion. That occasion, actually, it was a big occasion accordingly. There was a heavy lunch, transport refund, including...
Oh, you guys are lucky.
Yeah, so people were... so it was a big occasion, but there was nothing much new to be launched on that day. If you saw me, I raised the different questions on why they had actually launched the roadmap. You know, a roadmap should be something that shows where we are going and how we are to do political, activities. And it should be shared with the politicians. They need to first sit, agree that that is how we shall move. In this case, there was nothing like any meeting. I've told you I sit on the National Consultative Forum, which is an organization that brings all political parties which are registered together. And this is a constitutional body. And its mandate is to advise the Electoral Commission on political activities. But it was not consulted. We did not see any document. So by the time we reached there, we were given a document and which was put on the table. And they were showing dates when the elections are to take place, showing the figures on how much it is required. And it came out to be like the whole exercise would take 1 billion, 1 trillion, about 300 billion. Okay? So we looked at it. And my question was, we have not had 2 elections, one for women and another one for LC1 and LC2.
Yes.
And the reason is that there were no funds.
And by the way, that cost 1.3 trillion doesn't include the election.
It does not. It does not. The other one is completely separate. Yeah. So this one we did not hold at these elections simply because there were no funds. And I was asking them, now, in this roadmap, you are not showing a possibility of a postponement in case funds are not available. If we have not been able to have elections for women, for LC1 and LC2, and there has been a ministerial statement to expand, to extend the dates, how sure are you that we will get $1 trillion plus to hold these elections? There was no answer. The another question which I asked was that the Electoral Commission, when it was bringing up this, the chairman said, don't you as politicians, we have brought out this plan, but don't go out for campaigning. Yes. You need to stop until we give you the date of campaigning. And we were wondering, because first of all, there are political players who are already moving out without a roadmap. For example, General Muhoozi is moving out with an unregistered organization which is called the MK Movement. That is illegal by itself. And he goes around mobilizing people. Holding.
Movements are not illegal. You can say that he is running it illegally because he's not a politician, because he's a serving army member, but I don't think the movement in itself is illegal.
What do you mean? This is an registered entity. The moment you say MK movement, we had a movement which was a legal entity here. Do you remember the movement system of governance? That was a legal entity. So not every movement, not every movement, no, but he also has a leadership. Let me tell you, he has got the spokespersons, has got the mobilizers, has got the coordinators. They are mobilizing every day. They are meeting. They are talking politics. They are going to take over the government. No, is still a soldier, serving soldier.
Now that is illegal.
Yes,
but we have social movements happening here now and again. They are not registered.
Under UPDF Act, you are talking to a lawyer. Under a UPDF Act, a person who is serving a soldier, you don't even comment. You don't even comment on politics. But he's moving around commenting, he's moving around mobilizing, and he's not following a roadmap. So I was asking, did you have a different roadmap for General Muhoozi to politically mobilize so that others will wait for a date, because we cannot move with him. Already, he has got a roadmap. He began some year back. For us, you are saying you are not giving us the date. When should we start? The man is mobilizing and others, together with his father. His father is mobilizing this side. Him is also mobilizing this side. The daughter, who is the sister, is recently releasing the video about the war. So in general terms,
about the illegal war. Actually, it was mandatory. Actually, war of terror on the legitimate government of Uganda.
In fact, there is no way we can follow now this, because now people are already on their own roadmap.
And
so
and his brother-in-law?
It is the brother-in-law is now the one with 39 billion, trying to show how people, can grow. I don't know, coffee. There is even another group who is a grandson who got 9 billion to teach people how to drink coffee.
Well, that was a grandson.
I'm telling you, this is not. This is how to drink coffee. And me, Gideon, by the way, I also drink coffee.
You learned by yourself, or the government's teaching?
What is it? 90 billion? Recently, I was telling people.
You need a few million because you've drank quite a lot of coffee.
No, I was wondering.
I took so much coffee that my doctor told me to stop, honestly.
Yes, so I was wondering recently. I come from Ujera in Tunga Moruhama, where the big people are coming from. I'm a Munyankore, my story. When we write
from
when am I also eating? Because this would be our time of work. But they have more Banyankore who is more better Banyankore than others. That's why I told the people, I cannot meet General Moses and I greet him in Banyankore. No, we are different Banyankore. There are those who are enjoying life and those who are suffering. And they don't even care. They always keep on talking. We are all Banyankore. When they are speaking, people think that Banyankore are enjoying. No. Completely nothing. So another question.
Actually, I thought you guys were enjoying.
No, we are not completely. Gideon Tugume, I'm a small man. I'm a vulnerable person. Together with, I don't know whether he has graduated from.
You guys are in things. I'm the only vulnerable one here.
I'm not a member of.
So actually, something that I got free of charge is when I was still in school, and it was UPC government, where I got a book for the government of Uganda. It was made in Canada, together with a pen and a pencil. Since then, I've tried for myself. I've never seen something that is helping someone, even in my village. I've never seen it. There is completely nothing. Even when you go to the hospital. Recently, there is someone who took a child in ICP. Is it ICU? In Mulago. You have to deposit 1 million in a bank before taking someone in ICU at Mulago. In a bank, when you take your person and they say needs ICU, before he's admitted, you have to deposit 1 million in the bank. Every week, you pay 1 million. The moment you don't have it, they remove the ICU and the person dies. And this is a national referral hospital. So we are not here to talk ills about government. We are not talking ills about President Museveni. But the issues that affect people, which are not being given really. So what should we do? So people need to be assisted. This is their government. For the last 40 years, they have supported the regime, knowing that this government will at one time do something. I heard recently the Kabaka saying, we have not been working for the last 30 years, but as Jesus did, after 30 years, that's when he started working. So we don't know also whether NRM also was waiting
for the
30 years to do something. Even if they waited for 30. This is also almost 10 years. They would have done something. So in reality, my brother, I want to tell you that we are not here to quarrel. We are not complaining. But we are entitled. This is our entitlement. That we are entitled to the resources of this country. People should not share the country as if they are sharing their own farms. For example, you find somebody owning a whole village, has chased away all the people, and is putting their cows. We cannot have a country of cows. No. This is a country of our people. This is Uganda country. People are suffering. You must do something. Provide water, make roads. You try to, to give people something that helps them. Many students have left universities because of lack of fees, which you don't know.
And let's hear from Honorable Ochieno.
Okay.
From the new developments, the launched roadmap and the work plan for the 2026 elections. I realized a lot of opposition were not there, but your Secretary General,
Not my Secretary General.
okay, UPC Secretary General,
Not UPC Secretary General.
where does
He's
he
Jim.
represent?
No,
He
he's
represents
no,
UPC, doesn't he?
You're a journalist, and this is what we're saying, and you're talking to a lawyer. You already know because we said it on this program. It's your job with your editors to tell the public if Akena comes, Akena presents himself as a leader. You must either say disputed or one of the factors, whatever. You need
Okay,
to
all right,
no, you need to explain because generally this is extremely important. I know you guys make mistakes. You should see how the media works operate around the world. No, he is not UPC's because Court of Appeal ruled that Akena is not president. So he's Akena's Secretary General. They occupy Uganda House illegally. You see what I'm saying?
Did the court, just for clarity purposes, did court also nullify the whole administration of UPC or Akena himself?
No, it's Akena is a simplistic thing. Court of Appeal ruled
So it could
that
be
Akena
that
is, no. Okay, let me say it. I've told you actually, I think I told you. Court of Appeal ruled that Akena is not president, that the party should hold fresh elections. The party therefore meant that the party, as headed by Olara, because Olara organized the elections in which the irregularities that Akena took. So the party that was legitimate was led by the person whom Olara appointed to replace him as his acting vice president at the time, when Olara left, which was Joseph Bossa. Joseph Bossa appointed Walubiri to act as president when Bossa went for medical treatment abroad. Talk about NRMS and people treatments abroad. Unfortunately, Bossa died in abroad. So that basically left Peter Walubiri, technically the leader, who was mandated to carry out the elections. So according to, as of the 7th of September 2020, Walubiri was the legitimate leader of UPC. So he organized elections in which he participated as a candidate. Dr. Dixon Opul participated, Dan Okello participated, and I did participate in those elections. That's the election that I won, and I won convincingly, and I've got the evidence. They fudged the figures thanks to the atmosphere under NRA, I challenged them informally, and then I decided to seek judicial review. I sought a judicial review on the 16th of March 2021. Granted, there was COVID for about a year. But since then, there is basically direct incompetence of NRA system. We talk about electoral roadmap. So since then, this matter came to court effectively last September. On the 13th of September, a new judge that was given this case, I'm cutting it short, said that there would be a ruling on 9th of December. Now, it is, what date is it today? It is the 7th. So we're 2 days to 1 year waiting for a ruling. So meaning that we are 3 years without a leader, meaning contested leadership. But certainly the leadership is between myself in the very nearest. Walubiri holds office formally. So I recognize wherever his office, he holds the key. I'm saying that he holds it illegally because he swore it himself, but it's not Akena. You see what I'm saying? But I know the person who's elected with the mandate of UPC members is myself, but I don't call myself president. I'm waiting for that.
Let's begin from right there.
Yeah.
This roadmap comes out, and the opposition, particularly as you can hear those issues, how are you prepared to participate in the next election?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult in part because of some of the things my brother here talks about. But in part it's also about an NRMS. Because our case is actually a clear example. And I think the NRA regime does these things almost deliberately. In 2020, it took my Sunday column, it took my Sunday Monitor column to wake up the judiciary. The elections in which Akena is challenged was in 2015. The matter, Akena declared himself president because he held an illegitimate, an illegal delegates conference. The Olara group went to court and challenged, and they won. Akena appealed, with on instruction, I'm told, by Beta Mongi, he's friend with Museveni in the Museveni regime. So from January 2016, the matter was not disposed of until I wrote on my Sunday column saying that the judiciary, as the third arm, were doing the services to political parties. And this under an NRA regime, that went to the bush allegedly because of rigged elections. They're lucky that UPC, after 1985-86, we didn't go to the bush. We decided to challenge them politically, legally, and diplomatically. And it took us up to 2005 to get a ruling, 2004 to get a ruling that political parties should be returned in operations, hence the existence of our two political parties at the moment. Now, for NRA then to go ahead and begin to fight these processes and hold political parties hostage. So that was 4 years, from one electoral cycle, 2016 to 2020. UPC was effectively being held hostage. 1. 2, UPC members were being held hostage. 3, Ugandans were being held hostage, meaning that UPC, as an alternative voice to share with other voices, could not be heard. Now, that is Museveni shortchanging, with his crude system, shortchanging the people of Uganda. My column ran on Sunday. On Monday, interestingly, the matter was brought out was listed for hearing on Wednesday. On Wednesday, the Jim McKenna had now his second delegates conference. So Jimmy had been allowed to run one term, basically that's basically deliberate, technically, nearly one term. He was now holding second delegates conference, and the matter is still in court somewhere. So we're talking trillions, including billions for coffee and billions for Museveni's family. Yeah? However smart his family is, but some of them may almost certainly be crooked under the circumstances. But here, UPC or a political party is being held hostage, or the judiciary is overwhelmed, because that's also a possibility, that the judiciary is overwhelmed. 4 weeks later, the matter was ruled, as I said, definitively, that fresh elections be held. Obviously, granted, some of our colleagues, and I feel very disappointed with members of the Uganda People's Congress, after the court gave us the opportunity to hold fresh elections and elect leaders of our choice, that this process was played about with and fight by people, some of whom were lawyers. Walubi is a lawyer. His Secretary General, Ochieno, basically thieving like mafias. Tom Omino, his personal assistant, who was previously Lakeda's personal assistant. These are lawyers. My good friend, who was chairman of the Electoral Commission, is Hamza Sewankambo. He's a lawyer, decent guy. How they got wrapped up in this kind of thing, I don't want to know. So in a way, we part contributed to this, and many individuals did these things to that. But when I went to court from 2021 in March, I'm still waiting for the outcome. Now, does Museveni want me to go to Luwero?
Certainly not.
Simply because there are no bushes. Because Museveni was in Luwero, but once in a while he used to come and throw bombs in Kampala. Museveni threw bombs in the Crystal Towers to target my Secretary General and Minister of Internal Affairs. Is that what Museveni wants us to do? Now, Museveni, and I've said this before, and I think let me say it today. Museveni thinks that he now has monopoly over violence. He doesn't. There's nothing particularly special about Museveni and NRA. There's absolutely nothing special. We are only decent Ugandans who opted that we don't want violence. You see what I'm saying? So you can't stretch people to these nonsensical extremes, playing onto us. So talk about that then when you pull that from there. And I think, I can get this feeling today for the first time, I better say it like that. So sometimes when some of us walk in the streets of Kampala, like my brother Tugume says, they think we're equipment. No, we're human beings. And some of us are extremely decent human beings, but also we are absolutely capable human beings. There is absolutely nothing special with Mr. Museveni. Nothing. Museveni is not a special being. From wherever he was born, from his grandfather's grandfathers, I can count my 5 generations. There is nothing specifically special with Museveni which is not about anybody else. Granted, he went to Ntara and went to Mwiri. Do you know what? I'm absolutely convinced that if we sat in the same class with Museveni, I would excel and he would struggle behind me. So some of the things are neither here nor there. No, like Obote said, Obote is my boss. We simply said we love Uganda more than we love UPC. It's just simply that. But anyway, so that's the situation. So if then that is the situation in UPC, you can imagine. Of course, now you're asking me, how then are we ready? Yes. Quite clearly, it means that UPC, for the first 3 years, since the Bangold elections, which Museveni, tortured our people in the streets of Kampala, there's still some people who are missing, 3 years of the 5 terms, UPC has not gone a leader. Thanks to Mr. Museveni and some of the dubious money, which is basically our money. So in the next 2 years, UPC still has, so I hope the leadership issues resolved within the next few weeks. So UPC, so it means that if I'm a leader today, It will take me 6 months to settle, another 6 months to build a team and give hope to party members around the country. And what stage do I begin then to prepare to sell our messages across the country? Because I know Museveni knows these things, because the guy is a coward. He has nothing to sell to the people of Uganda. But let me tell you one thing. I'm returning from Eastern Uganda. The other week I came from Western Uganda. And then the other week I came from Northeastern Uganda, Teso, where Museveni told the people of Teso in a famine that they should eat mangoes. The guy knows it. He knows that if he was to allow the three of us to go around the country, would liberate the minds of Ugandans, and for him would be sent packing to Rachtura. That's what he knows. The tiny little confidence I have is that at any time that Ugandan political parties came to terms with themselves, and removed themselves from the yoke of any prisoner and patronage, and we began working together, create a sense of leadership so that we're able to address the issue with the vulnerability of the citizens of this country. NR will be sent packing. On Saturday, I was at a function in Tororo, not far from my home. And one aspect of that function I'll talk about is vulnerability. An OB of mine in primary school, he was ahead of me. This guy was walking with rocked back. So he came to me just by my car. I think I was picking up something, talking to somebody, another colleague of mine. So he thought I was going, so he rushed. This man was begging for money to go for a scan. And in this case, he was saying he's got a garden of cassava that he wants to. So his was very interesting. That could I or somebody buy a garden with cassava? And I was trying to ask him, Obi, so how much is the scan? He doesn't know. Where is it? He said it's in Bali. Who's taking you there? Because I wanted to get the details from him. He sort of couldn't. I think he was also taken aback by this. And then, of course, now, is it 100,000 shillings? Is it 200,000 shillings? But because I went in the straight UPC default, I want to know what exactly it is so that I see how I can help this guy. We hit a neutral because I decided to give my number because many other people want to talk to me. So that he can find out the information and he calls me over the next few days. I'm saying, this is a vulnerable Ugandan who was in Nagongera St. Joseph's Primary School, one of the best schools in Eastern Uganda. And remember, Eastern Uganda, those other times, including my year, were the best region in the country. Yeah? So this was one of the best guys from one of the best primary schools then in Eastern Uganda. Right now, he is looking for money by selling his cassava to go merely for a scan. At the time when we were at primary school, thanks to UPC, my local dispensary had an ambulance, meaning this guy needed to go to either Paya dispensary, which is a smaller dispensary, or come to Nagongera dispensary, which was a bigger dispensary. These days, NRA just gives it a name to make it look posh. This is Health Center 4. In the event that they couldn't help him there, they would have had to refer him to Toro Hospital. Only in the unlikely event that Toro could not sort it out, could be Mbali, but almost certainly the state would be Mulago. But you know what? If he went to Nagongera dispensary and he was given a referral to Tororo, he would be driven to Tororo, because that's what happened. So he would not have to pay a penny, except by presenting himself in Nagongera dispensary. That was under UPC administration. And 40 years of this bunch of dubious people who didn't come through elections, and now 1.3 trillion Uganda shillings playing us funny. And there is a Ugandan citizen that I met in Paya. That is a citizen that Mr. Museveni ought to take responsibility for. So these things are almost close to criminal. And it hurts. I'm telling you honest. It really, really hurts. And yes, we're discussing Nyongo electoral roadmap. Mr. Museveni knows he lost the 1980 general election. And Mr. Museveni knows these election things are charades. Mr. Museveni knows in 1985 he couldn't win. Because in 1980, from near that, the guy lost to his brother-in-law in DP, in a constituency. And Museveni knew with DP that in 1985 they could not win an election. And they banned parties for 20 years because they thought, well, parties would fade off, because any time in between of that, he would never win. So build, consolidate, mobilize the military, train funny, dubious people, equip them, give them money, impoverish our people, and create 80% vulnerability in the country so that now all we have are people with patronage. Last night I was on a radio station somewhere in eastern Uganda. You sense people who call in, plus some of the people who meet you, including somebody who was NRA representative. Somebody tells you off air quite clearly that they're just there for money because they understand and agree with everything that they're trying to say. It's crude. But anyway, we're not here for quarrel. Election roadmap, NRA election roadmap is here. I don't know how much other political parties will be ready. As I said, in UPC's case, that's basically quite clear the case. As a matter of interest, and this is interesting, my good friend Simon Biamakama, chairman of Electoral Commission, the guy is a very decent lawyer, We even exchange business cards once in a while. So he didn't even have the courtesy to inform me, maybe because of the special breakfast and the refund. So he thinks Ochieno Nagongra doesn't. No, my grandfather paid taxes here. I don't know if Museveni's grandfather did. I'm telling you the truth. So no, this is also my money and my children's money. But that's not the point. So I wasn't invited. So how did the Electoral Commission choose to invite Akena's boy, and not Walubiri's representative or Ochieno's representative? So which is which kind of stuff?
Yeah. Anyway.
So finally, if then that is UPC, of course we know we've just been discussing what is happening in FDC. Some of these trails go to Museveni. So, I'm not quite really sure what political parties are. So that's why my brother here suggests that maybe, is it a fight? Is it about the timings? Neither here nor there. But finally on this, Mr. Museveni has been campaigning from day one, including huge amount of money given to him in the name of giving out pledges. I don't know a circumstance in which Milton Obote would pull money from his pocket to give people. I don't know when a president, by the way, you're a lawyer. These are things that we need to make sure that we break. There should be nothing like a presidential pledge, particularly even in this partisan political environment, Ministries should go and carry out works. If it's health services, they do. If it's education services, they do. If it's agriculture, they do. If it's community development, they do. Ministers should do that, not president's office. If Mr. Museveni that wants, he should go and sell his cows and give. So we know it's Museveni's cows, Museveni's father's cows. Not our money.
Let me get his thoughts just a little bit.
Yes.
This roadmap is out. Now, besides the fact that you contest it, whether there is substance in it or not, it is out there. And unfortunately for you, it is most likely going to happen anyway. Do you think it's too early for it?
Yeah, first of all,
is it too late? Is it too early?
The authors of the roadmap are illegal by themselves. You remember in the case of Dr. Besigye in 2011, Dr. Besigye versus Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and the Electoral Commission, there is a decision of court which declared this Electoral Commission as non-independent, which cannot hold free and fair elections. So their continuity.
But the Constitution also provides for the commission.
So there it is there, Article 61. Of course it is there. But when the court says you are not independent, then you cannot be independent by yourself. And that's what I asked when we were there. We said no. The person, the author of this roadmap is actually not supposed to be in the office. What is supposed to be there in the roadmap is to show who exactly is going to organize these elections. We cannot go for elections where, again, we have this current electoral commission.
But to be fair to the electoral commission,
yes,
have we as political parties challenged this?
No, but where are the political parties? I was asking myself if we are to call a meeting of political parties. Would you invite DP? No, the president of DP is now dancing with NRM. Do you call UPC? No, UPC of Akena is within RM.
But I'm here.
But in which capacity would you come? Which position do you hold in a UPC? If I'm inviting the people at the headquarters, would you really accept the decision made by Mao and Akena to be part of the organization for opposition? No. And look at the oppositions which are now, the party which would be, have been in the NUP. I've read NUP simply because of its inability to do something. Look at the leaders. What are they doing? whenever there is an action here to be taken.
What should they do?
Yes, no, we're supposed to mobilize. You're
And
supposed to
how do
build.
they- how do
You're
you
supposed to
suggest they
build.
do?
You're supposed to build structures from the ground. Now we have only 2 years. You haven't done anything. Who is going to be there to elect the MPs? Who is going to be there even to elect you? Because you have to hold the delegates conference. How are you going to hold the delegates conference when you are not even, we don't know the members of your party? You know, elections is not about, talking, and you must calculate. You calculate and know, I have a big number of this, I have a small number of this. NRM will tell you that we have 30 people per village. When you go to the villages which we have, even if they reduce from 30 to 25, you will not beat them at all. I was in the elections recently as an observer in Oyam. I saw where the opposition had no agents on the polling stations. I saw how they were critiquing the votes, critiquing them and putting them, stuffing them in the box. In Rohama, where I come from, by 11, elections is over.
I'm told elections never take
over.
place.
By 11 is over. When you come after 11, they will tell you we have already voted. Even for you, your name will be there.
Don't worry,
but
don't
worry,
It's sorted.
everything. Yeah, you have been. You don't worry. They're already there, and nobody's talking about it. You cannot win an election being held in such a manner. Look at the money that goes into the elections. It's by itself. Why should somebody need to sell his house? Need to, to go in such a kind of elections.
And for fairness again, for our viewers,
yes,
I did check some statistics for 2016 elections, and they said an average member of parliament would have to spend 465 million.
But
to
where
be able to attend
where
office.
does such a person get the money? Yeah. And is it favorable actually to a vulnerable person whom I represent? No, it is not. And a vulnerable person is also supposed to participate in an election. But they have made it so expensive to the extent that a person, a Ugandan, should not participate. So they want the rich to be the ones always to go through. So you have to buy yourself out, okay? You have to buy yourself from the Electoral Commission officials. Nobody knows how they were appointed. Nobody knows how these ones, the district registers were appointed. Nobody knows who appoints the DPC, the DSOs, the RDCs. All those ones are not there for you as an opposition. So all these were supposed to be, modified with the reforms which were submitted for discussion. There is no reform that has been put.
So what happened? So they were submitted?
Yes.
So what's happened?
No, there is nothing. Nobody's even talking about it. Even the ones we call opposition in parliament are not talking about
that
it.
His upcoming fete in Gulu, he did say that he would table those reforms in 3 weeks' time.
Now, but which 3
we
weeks
have
time?
not
No,
had.
you are talking of 3 weeks' time. When we want to change the electoral commission, when shall we have the new commissioners? Because it has to be independent. You are talking of 3 weeks' time. When shall we organize? For example, if they said the police should never involve themselves in the election, who is going to take care of security? Because these are the things that we are talking about. We are talking about that the military is involved. We need to plan ourselves. It must be in the roadmap. It has not been put there. So even our opposition who are in the parliament, what are they doing? Our opposition leaders are not in the country. They are just getting the money, use it for their own. Even the money is supposed to be used for mobilizing the preparation. It is being swindled. So there is corruption in opposition, corruption in the government, corruption in everybody. So
Who is going to say
what do you suggest?
No, I do
going to
suggest
say
that
who?
there should not be an election for what now?
So
the
for
winner
the-
is already known. Let me tell you.
we
The
just-
winner
yeah.
for the 2026 elections is Museveni. Now, if we know the winner, why are we participating in such a sham elections? Let us instead of misusing the billion shillings, let us
Trillion,
use it for trillion. Let us use it for electricity, use it for in the hospitals, use it for caring for the
Let
people.
the man run among the
If-
you're the one
until-
you're the
no,
same
until he
people are
does,
saying.
let me tell you.
You're the same people who are saying,
Let-
just a minute.
let me tell
You're
you.
the same people who are saying that
Yes.
this man is reading us very bad. And as he says, we need to get rid of him as soon as yesterday. But now you're also saying that since the systems are also not working, we'd rather not have
No,
it
we cannot.
altogether.
We cannot
Let's
remove
just
him.
leave it.
No, we cannot remove.
So
him.
what do we do?
We shall never remove President Museveni using the ballot. That one is out.
What
Yes,
what
if we want to
alternatives do we
remove
have?
Museveni, either somebody, should donate guns to us and we start off. This is no, I'm telling you.
But he's the one
No,
who
we-
owns
no,
But
we
who
should-
donated guns to him?
No, he just got them from the government. Somebody in the government donated.
No,
Yes.
no. He already got them.
No, let me tell you.
For the record,
Eh.
by 1981,
Eh.
February, Museveni had already an army. When the Wetu Jokes were suffering, the Mwangas were walking via Masaka, Mutukla. For him, was taking barracks, is recruiting. So when he came here as Minister for Defense, he started now training. So anyway, you're right, he got his from the pocket. So by the time they go to Luero, it's another lie. It's not 27 guns, it's not 42 people. No. This guy already had thousands of people. But and all are armed.
Definitely, yes. So it is what I'm telling you.
But I just want to play a devil's advocate too here. With Roger, with permission. No, I think we genuinely are challenged, and that's what Roger is saying to you. And to be fair to our viewers, we should be seen to be giving them alternatives. Yes. And so my opinion is, particularly from your organization as opposition, I don't think that the issue should be just enough that, say UPC, there are
factions.
Two factions plus one leadership.
Yes.
But because mine is what is UPC and Musaz, so the others I don't know what they are. But these things can be done if you genuinely mean it. For example, that you could say that DP submits 3 names, in which case you can take one from Mao or one from the other. In UPC you can say that we need 3 people. Akena, either you or somebody, Walubiri, either you or somebody. Definitely no for me. I'll get sorted. So, on a serious note,
yes.
On behalf of, because remember we say we speak for the vulnerable.
Yes, sure.
On behalf of the vulnerable people out there, we need to be seen to be providing them alternative
I do
leadership.
tell them,
and that leadership
must
really come from
I'm informing them by the genuinely.
Yes.
Genuinely, may I speak my heart? I'm generally informing them that where we are right now, there is no trust among ourselves. A UPC, which is of Warubiri, cannot have a trust of a UPC, which is a Kenya.
No, granted, but this will not be about UPC. I'm simply saying a port of all.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Sure.
If you invited, let's go to Africana now, or go to Nambori. We're inviting the opposition. Whom would we invite, generally, to talk on the serious issues, for the sake of removing the regime? Nobody. Some of them are part of the regime.
But this is not about this. At least in terms of organizing elections, removing. You will say removing the regime. With Museveni, when you hear removing, he thinks they're going to throw things.
In elections, we don't go to elections to simply massage the regime. We go into the elections to remove.
But that's why we need to organize.
To win elections. And as I speak right now, there is no any other winner apart from Museveni. Museveni has already won this election. I'm telling you. And if you want to cry, by the way, and I don't want tomorrow somebody to come to me and say, I'm crying, they have won. No, these people are ready to take over again by 2026.
Mr. Tugume, I'm going to just hold it there, just a little bit. We're going to go in for a short commercial break. Yes. But when we come back, I want us to begin from that very point. The disorganization that is in the opposition. And I am glad you did talk about it because, like you said, there's no trust on this other side. Internal politics themselves, the political parties themselves have failed.
Completely.
Now, the union of the opposition as a whole body, like all of it, has also failed.
That I'm begging.
It has also failed. Now, what alternatives are there? And then we're also saying that elections are not going to help us. And it means that the structures cannot be of use.
Yes.
What is going to happen? So I want us to begin from there. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go in for a very short commercial break. We will be right back. Don't leave the alternative.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Looking for a pair of shoes? Les Hub Stores has a wide range of selection for unisex footwear. We have the best quality of all brands at pocket-friendly prices, and we make deliveries countrywide. Just place your order or reach us on 0772 08 0090. You can also check up at Les Hub Stores on all our social media platforms. Les Hub, craft your own footprints.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from that short commercial break. My name again is Roger Sturiawe, and in studio with me is Mr. Tugume, Gideon, and Mr. Ochieno Joseph, and they are both political commentators, analysts, and they're experts in this area. They have participated quite extensively over some time. Now, when we went to the break, you did say that elections cannot work. And again, I was trying to get some bit of perspective, because even for Ugandan who's out there, they need to know what is it, for example, if you are in opposition, what is it that you're tabling that you think is going to work for Uganda, if you think the systems are there and they can never work, and you have no faith in them, and you decide, let's just put up the arms, this is not going to work, let's follow. What is
No,
there?
you see, when Prime Museveni, together with his group, so that the systems could not favor them, they went to the bush in Ruero, fought for 5 years, came and toppled the government then, and they took over power, and they are the ones that have been in the power for the last 40 years. So, I think Ugandans have got what to do in that regard, because we cannot go for elections, we cannot win elections. And I'm telling you, and those who want to go there, they should never cry before the camera tomorrow that they have stolen their votes, they have done whatever, unless if someone wants to be frustrated. You know, they frustrated Dr. Besigye for the last four times that he has been standing. And this is deliberate. And they are going to do it to Chaburani. They are going to do it to somebody else. So if you want to see how NRM can frustrate you, you participate in the forthcoming shame and shake and sham elections. Because it is not going to be free and fair. It will not. The reformers said we should change the Electoral Commission. It is not changing. The recruitment of the people who work with the Electoral Commission, registrars at the district, is supposed to be done in a fair manner. It has not been done. When you look at the involvement of the soldiers, involvement of the police, involvement of the other security agencies, they are still going, they are still doing the same. What you don't know that at every election, every general is given more than 5 billion to move around mobilizing, given, using within the army itself. And this one, nobody can challenge it. So as where we are right now, we cannot win an election. The winner is already known, is President Museveni. And so what we can do as Ugandans is to leave him, and he continues until he dies. When he dies, then we shall start from there. You know, those who shall be still alive. Because, yes, I'm telling you, those who shall be still alive will see where to start from.
Okay,
but right now, there is completely nothing. It is completely obnoxious. It does not help anybody. It is monolithic. It is dictatorial. And that's how to remove.
Mr. Tugume, let's get a thought also from Mr. Ochieno. The man says election results are always is a foregone conclusion. It is done, it is predetermined, of course, the systems. And when you look at the performance, where we have come from, that seems to be fair. But he's also saying that this is not a thing that is going to work for us. We should just leave it. And he did say that we could just leave the man to die, and then we can begin from there. We can pick up from that. What is your thought?
So we leave the man to die in, say, 50 years' time, because we don't want to wish him, to get weak soon. Because for me, I do God, and I forgive Mr. Museveni. So then, as his son is trafficking the country, using our money, and buying young, beautiful people, some of them are people so we let that happen, then his son goes, and then we wait in another world, perhaps? I'm not quite sure. No, I understand completely where Gideon is coming from. Obote warned Dr. Semogeri and Cecilia Gwal at the time in the 90s, and by extension, people like Kizza Besigye, who then believed that because you go to a funeral somewhere in Nakaseke and many people come and join you in a big way and then say, oh, position is strong, so, we can defeat Museveni in election. Obote always said that you could not defeat Museveni at his thing. And it's very clear that Museveni is not yet about to organize for anybody to take his thing away.
Exactly.
What, however, is required, as we're saying that, what I was saying that because these are guys who, for instance, 1996 elections, part of 2001 elections, but particularly 1996, when parties were still banned. Our argument, and remember, I was head of the UPC's External Bureau in UK, and for that reason, and in part, also very close to the president. And so my thoughts were also very close to Dr. Obote. Obote was saying that what parties needed to do were to come together in commonality generally to push for opening of the political space, to ensure that political parties are able to return. Once political parties are returned, we fight for the spaces to ensure that we have opportunities and abilities and capacity, therefore, to go to grassroots, set up our structures, grassroots, constructively engage, and at that stage then be able to market our ideas in a competitive way. At the time, had this happened very freely and very easily 20 years ago, we would be very far. I have suggested, for instance, that in 2001 elections, with Dr. Besigye particularly, we may possibly have lost a bit of opportunity in that election, but it happens Besigye was not necessarily seemingly a believer of multi-party politics, because quite clearly he was a political commissioner of of NRA, who was quite convinced that parties were bad. But other than that, obviously, he started his own organization. I'm using this not about my criticism about participation in no-party election system. I'm just trying to talk about strategy. So if about that time when people were beginning to say, because it was still closer to 1985 when the Museveni were bad-mouthing political parties. Many of these leaders were still alive. Museveni had not penetrated and infiltrated Uganda, and some Ugandans had not been born who are now already grandparents, and Museveni is still there. So at the time, if that happened, we would have gone ahead and mobilized and reclaimed some of our leaders who were then strong. It's 20 years now. Most of our then leaders moved on. Some of those that now I go around the country and meet them, they're in their 80s, and they're actually quite old and tired. Some of them, people in their 70s have already almost given up, meaning systems are very weak. Now, many of the young people are either used to being served low dish, crumbs from Museveni's high table via our money, and many young Ugandans I continuously meet, just like Gideon talk about here, young Ugandans don't know that they're entitled to free medical services. Young Ugandans don't know that they're entitled to decent education. Young Ugandans don't know that I was paid salaries to go to every term very decently to study in Makerere universities. Young Ugandans don't know that I was paid free transport allowance from Tororo. Young Ugandans don't know that I used to be given book allowances. Young Ugandans don't know that particularly those before me, mine was getting a little harder.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can. Although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
You're welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yet again, apologies. Of course, I want to apologize for what just happened. Some of these things are really beyond our means, and we cannot control if it does happen or not. And so we apologize for that. But we are back nevertheless, and the discussion is going to continue, and we're going to just carry on from where we stopped. When we went off, Mr. Ochieno, you were telling us about elections or no elections.
Yes,
Which way to go about that?
Yeah, those quite clearly now lost my mind, and it's not me to blame, and nor is it you to apologize directly, but we take responsibility. But the truth is that when we have these interruptions, and they're technical interruptions which are not here but part of the national infrastructure, meaning that Kampala doesn't have the capacity to enable us to go through programs, and these things happen every now and again. That is actually a sign of incompetence of NRA, and that's after 40 years of Museveni. Is the more reason why people should be able to be so desperately anxious to see an end to Museveni. Hence, the continued urge for us to look for solutions to make sure that we have Museveni persuaded to retire peacefully, and that we're able to find a way in which a post-Museveni Uganda is one in which all of us live together in harmony, in peace, in reconciliation, without revenge, maybe after a national conference held, but a Uganda in which really the past, particularly the hurtful past, most of which will have been contributed by Mr. Museveni, does not happen again. I was saying that that's what the solution. I'm simply saying that, look, political parties are the primary vehicles for driving governance in countries, and political parties of different shades, normally of ideological left and ideological right, in those kind of lenses, and that ideally some political parties will be at the center of body polity. And I'm suggesting that actually in these political parties in a particular country, particularly one which has had a difficult life with the military dictatorship like this of Mr. Museveni and that of Idi Amin, and conflicts in part. Say, for instance, under Obode II, when we were trying to sort out the mess after Amin, but the Museveni was busy throwing stones in Luweero and in Kampala. There's a lot to do. I was suggesting that had it not been the case that after Museveni had cowardly banned parties for a long time, and that when his NRA thing started breaking up, important names like Besigye came out and joined then mainstream political parties, we would have been 4 political parties active in 1980 elections. And so perhaps return to mainly the serious was UPC and ODP. In the very least, okay, it's a granted third political party, but if they return to those political parties, I think it would have been very easy, much easier for us to mobilize and organize with the leadership around those situations, notwithstanding the fact that we still have hard issues of leadership in some of the internal issues we have now, and that Museveni will still have his extensions. Even in UPC, Museveni tried, as early as the early 90s, to influence our leaders on this occasion. I'll spare some of them, because some of them are big names. But where we are at the moment, if we did that today, not reduce, because we're not now being dictatorial, it's okay for other political parties to exist. But I'm saying that opposition parties need to emerge, 2, 3 at most, with a sense of clarity, sense of purpose, and as Gideon was saying, during the break, political parties that are able to provide genuine leadership, meaning human and idealistic leadership, that in the face of Uganda, Ugandans can trust them that these are people with groups of ideas and values that we can depend on post-Museveni. So if that is able to happen, I don't see why we wouldn't have problems. Why we would have problems. But that if that happens, and we're able to get these political parties, what these political parties would normally do would go to the grassroots. That's what I was trying to go. When they go to the grassroots, meaning not only set up structures, but set up, in the course of setting up structures, whenever I go around the country, I recruit, engage, and talk to people. And every day, including this morning when I was having my breakfast somewhere, I was talking to a young person, and you see somebody coming to you with an, oh, I hadn't seen it that way. And this is somebody reasonably educated, reasonably exposed. So this is the conversation we need to have, because we had not had it for a very long time. Mr. Museveni knows that. That's why he's keeping the population in this ignorance. So the more we do that, build our structures, build our infrastructure. In building our infrastructures, we're creating and founding leadership. In doing that, we're engaging them. Those leadership are being active. We are focusing ourselves on most important issues. We do that at the lowest units. We do that at the parishes. We do that at the sub-counties. We do that at district levels. Then we do that nationally, as we do on some of these programs. I think increasingly there will be a critical semblance of a population of Ugandans, including the elite who, in my opinion, have substantially betrayed this country. Men and women who think because they can spend 3 hours in Kampala traffic, and they're actually sometimes very cheeky. They meet you in the roundabout, man, and they don't give you a second. They're really in a hurry, in the traffic to nowhere. And they've hung around Museveni for 37 years, and then young, no change. They're waiting for some miracle from Ochieno to sort it out. So the Kampala elite, or Ugandan elite, who think that they don't have experience of the ghetto-like and Gideon, and they can afford mobile phones, and their phones are smarter than my smartphone, or so they think. So they think they've arrived. So they're waiting for Bwana Jesus to sort out the governance issues that the three of us are talking about. Those people are a problem. But we need to talk more, and the more we talk to some of the guys on the ground, the more we engage them, the more there will be a critical mass amongst Ugandans. For me, I'm genuinely convinced that the event that there is a sense of a critical mass of Ugandans who are openly and actively concerned. Mr. Museveni's soldiers, Mr. Museveni's spies, Mr. Museveni's money guys, including those who steal monies from our banks, Mr. Museveni's guys, including those in some medias, because some of them are active in the media and so selective that, you can imagine, when I was coming to the studios, there was a foreign media that wanted me to be on air on their program at 9:30, and I said that would be a rush, and they're begging me. They're begging for my opinion across the whole African continent. And there's a Ugandan media house, that thinks they're doing me a favor by hosting me, kind of stuff. And many of those ones would normally be for a reason. It's normally be for Museveni. So a critical mass of those people taking a position, there's no reason why there should be a military alternative to Museveni's thing. There's no reason why there would necessarily be a sense of violence. With the leadership organization in which Uganda People's Congress is involved, I said, we're the number one target in Luwero, we're the number one target in Kampala. The whole narrative, including a Bantu narrative about Oyomucholi, those Munyanyas, I am part of those in a particular way. But UPC officially, which is a national political party, anyways, it was stronger in Ankole than in my Tororo. Noanda Museveni was very jealous in Ruhama, rather in Yabushozi. So a UPC in which I'm involved, and particularly a UPC in which I'm a leader, I forgave Museveni a long time ago, and there will be no circumstance under which I would seek for Museveni's mistreatment. And so that I can guarantee, and I think that I would influence even if there is any other political organization which is leading such an arrangement post Museveni, and me, Ochieno, and I'm around and I'm alive, I'll make sure that we say enough is enough, let's have a new beginning. If there's a sufficient guarantee for Mr. Museveni, that one I can give him, he can take to the bank, because I'll not change that. So in my opinion is that the world of tomorrow is a world in which there is democracy and competitive polity. There is no other way. And my worry is the longer Museveni holds us back, and the longer some Ugandan elite hold us back, and the longer his intelligence and propagandists hold us back through fear about impossibilities, the more Uganda sinks. I was telling a program yesterday that, and I've also told you here, that not so long ago, Uganda's primary school teachers were successful secondary school teachers in Kenya. Today, Uganda's qualifications are questionable in Kenya, and Makerere University papers are not acceptable anywhere where Kenya is automatic. So meaning that some countries now, things with UK, that you must do English. Well, actually, UK is one of my young mentees is going for a PhD, in UK, and is obliged to do English language test. But Kenyans are not. So that's how things are actively changing, fast changing. Meaning, in 10 years' time, Rwanda would be very far away from Uganda. Rwanda ruled by an elite that were beneficiaries thanks to UPC and Uganda. And I think it's quite insulting. And then because of the advance of technology and where the world is going on, and initiatives and innovations, and that's why I'm always delighted that your camera people are always young people, and particularly young, beautiful people. It's because there's a knowledge future, knowledge world, that in 10, 20 years' time, and a continued NRA, if we don't urgently seek to change, this country will be the laughing stock of Africa, and the rest of the world, meaning the rest of Africa, will be shining up down. And I don't want such situation to arise in my lifetime.
All right. You do talk about competitive polity, and I wanted to get a thought from Mr. Tugume. But when you look, aside from now the whole quagmire around the political parties and whether our participation does make any difference, when you look at the participation itself, and that is about the monetization, the financing, campaigns, and all of that. I did mention earlier that on average in 2016, someone would need about 465 million Uganda shillings to run for a parliamentary seat, and need about 30 million to sustain that seat so that they may possibly get re-elected the following election cycle. With this in perspective, do you think it has also affected the relevance and significance of elections in this country?
As we speak, as we talk now, there is someone who sent me a message, a colleague of mine. Mr. Ocho sent me a message, and he was showing how the qualifications for those to stand for certain positions. President, senior 6. Member of parliament, the level is senior 6. Then when you go to others, it is no education. And those are the people who are going into parliament or in the government to decide for people who have, earned degrees and PhDs, who would be actually, So we have a certain group of people managing the country who cannot, interpret the current situations in life. And they are the ones now, because when we are talking of setting a salary for a doctor, somebody who completed the senior 4 is having an equivalent cannot know the importance of the doctor. Cannot. So we have a group of people that are managing this country, and their level of education is extremely wanting. When you go to parliament, almost 60% of the people, of the parliamentarians have equivalent of senior 4, senior 6 education. That is very dangerous for this country. So you have got people who cannot plan ahead. Who cannot plan. I was telling you in this plan, which they brought, the roadmap, when I asked them that now you have not put a provision for possible extension, because it would have been there in the plan, but they got a certificate from National Planning Authority. Now, which kind of people are in National Planning Authority who cannot think of an emergency? So that is the kind of the preparation that we have. So in terms of politics, when you look at the level of the politicians we have, the amount of money that is required, it is no longer necessary at all. Because people are going there to repay back what they spent. A person tells you I spent over 500 million, I want it back. Yeah. And who is willing to give that money back to him? Anybody. So if you want an FDC, then tomorrow is not, because he wants money. Yeah. If he went an NUP, then tomorrow is not. He's looking for the person who can give money. We're just calculating ourselves that we ourselves as opposition, if we cannot account for what we get, even the little we get, then how credible are we ourselves? How credible are we ourselves? So there is completely nothing. So my suggestion would be that let us form a government of national unity. We force Museveni to agree to a government of national unity. This government is the only one that will solve problems. 40 years is too much. We have the generals who have grown from private to a general within this period. He doesn't know any other regime. And that is the person who will say, we must die with Museveni. We must die with the NRM. We have those ones who have got anything in this world, including land, including houses, including the whatever they are built, the arcades, they are built what. They don't want to see them going. They want to protect them. They have guns, they have money, they have vehicles, they have what. They can protect whichever they have. And I was telling people that President Museveni can stay in power for about 5 years, fighting, people dying every day. As it happened, it has been happening in Syria. You know what has been happening? The America even supported the opposition and they failed to remove Assad of Syria. It happens. But instead, when we look at that, instead of going for that kind of havoc, for people to die, shedding of the blood, we can use the method that was used in South Africa. The South Africans agreed, they said, we form the government of national unity. And Mandela became a president. It went to Kenya, the same. Moi negotiated with the railroad dingers and they formed a government of national unity. It went to Zambia. Zambia the same, where Kaunda had refused to move. In Malawi, Bakiri Muruzi had refused to move. In Zimbabwe, when you look at Norbert Mugabe, was even sleeping while just walking, and he had refused to leave. In the Congo here, we would be having war, a very big war in Congo. They agreed. So I would suggest that as we can see ourselves as opposition, we are weak, completely weak. We can't do anything, we cannot win elections, and we shouldn't go for violence, because violence will not do us good. So we first suggest for a government of national unity, where we can see Dr. Besigye being either the vice president, and then we see Kyagulanyi being either the minister of foreign affairs or something. Gideon Tugume also being also getting something small. You cannot move away like that. Yes, I shouldn't leave my name because it can happen and this is forgotten. But this is on record. This is on record. So what I'm trying to say, we want peace as a country. And peace will not come if we don't go for that. We don't want to be like Somalia. We don't want to be like Sudan. We don't want to be like Libya, where the presidents were pushed. And this is in good faith, and this is for better of President Museveni and his family. If he doesn't do that, any person that comes and takes over by force, Muhoozi will be in jail, Museveni will be killed. I'm telling you.
Mr.
And this is,
let me ask you just one more for clarity's sake.
Yes.
You did mention that we should, did you say force Museveni?
No, we can force him to be out, by the way.
No, I mean for the government of national unity.
Yes.
How do we force him to be a part of that?
No, we force him. We are going to present a proposal on the table that please, this is our country, we want peace. Can you please share the government with us? If he refuses, we mobilize and push him out. Yes, and he knows it.
And let me ask you just the same thing.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
When we have one thing, similar thing happening in our neighborhood.
Yes.
With Kenya, Ruto and Odinga. And of course, the history, he did force the hand of a previous president to share power. And he's trying to do the same even for this one. But you can also see what the situation that has been. I do not know if that is really peace that you...
No, you see...
Because those are things that do come out.
You see, where peace fails, what do you go for? If we presented the proposal to President Museveni and say, now, we want peace, let us share power, and he continues to refuse, then, you know, there are also soldiers who are tired, by the way. They don't want to shed their blood. These educated soldiers, they want to see peaceful transition of power so that they can retain what they have gained. And for us, we're not going to go where you got from Congo. We shall repay the debts of Congo. We shall repay the debts of everything. What we want
after all, we are paying
yes,
anyway.
after all, we are paying anyway. We want peaceful transition of power from President Museveni to another person. We want to work together for the good of Uganda. If he refuses, we shall mobilize our generals. One of them will be with us, and we take over power. We don't know what is going to happen, but we want that if the government is changed by force, President Museveni will not survive, his family will not survive. Because nobody can work under Muhoozi if we are not, it is not by agreement. Nobody. He is a threat already. He's showing that he can even remove his father because he's moving around mobilizing. So in order for him to stay under someone whom we are going to wreck is by agreement. We have agreed, please don't tamper. You go to Wachitura, go to where you look after your cows as you are advising us. We shall respect you as the father of a nation. If you refuse, we force you out and your family will go. Even you yourself will go. And we don't want that. And the properties of these NRM people will go. Let me tell you, the people we have who are supporting us are the people who are very hungry and angry. And that is very dangerous for a country. The moment they take over power by force, they will destroy everything. And we don't want to destroy anything. We need our country to move on. We need these arcades which they have built in the using government money. We shall remove those ones in a peaceful way through courts of law. But the rest we shall relieve them so that the country can remain growing. That's what we want. Yes.
Let me get also a thought.
Yes, if they refuse, me, I'm completing. If they refuse, by the way, if President Museveni refuses and his NRM government, we shall have no problem. We shall mobilize the Ugandans and remove them by power, by force, and we shall take over power. We don't have that problem. We don't have any problem. We are very serious.
Thank you, Mr. Tugume. Now, Ochieno, we have all of this madness. And even as we do, especially in this election whole thing and cycle, we have stakeholders that include the civil society and the people themselves. What in this space where we are the opposition cannot hold a substantial opinion or force anything to happen or make anything happen for that matter. Anyone who comes out, they pay them and they come back, and the status quo just goes ahead. What is it that is, first of all, do you think the civil society can effect any change any more than the political players? And if that is so, how can they do that?
I think it's very difficult, you're right. Civil society at their best, in part contributed to influencing change in Sudan.
Yes.
Civil society participated reasonably in Kenya. Civil society was quite involved in Zimbabwe, although, as I said, I have some disclaimers there, and indeed South Africa. And in fact, while we were pushing for as part of some of those organizations pushing for change in Southern Africa, particularly including South Africa and Namibia, civil society globally contributed substantially to that. Considering the state of civil society in Uganda and how NRA has clamped down on them, in many cases possibly hard and blocking their fundings more than even in some cases perhaps political parties, it's neither here nor there. I am also one of those people, and this, my friends, have been sometimes quite critical that some of the leadership in civil society are not very different from people in some of the political organizations. We are criticizing that people basically are seemingly about their CVs, their jobs, their mortgages, and their deals, their businesses, and not really becoming critical, contributory players in basically the space for which is extremely critical, particularly in states which are dictatorial like NRA and states where political parties are weak, and so therefore states where they and the media should actually be the contributing equalizers. So that's a challenge. But I still want to say that regardless of the state of the civil society, the burden of responsibility still lies with political parties, except that I would want to say that the approach taken by Gideon is an approach for us in UPC. We in this. We offered a governorship of nationality in 1962. DP refused. We offered in 1980. DP again refused, but DP at least went to parliament with one leg and the other in the bush. Museveni just went straight to the bush. So this again for the record. So we did offer that. In 1996, of course, we offered our support to DP that had broken our legs with Museveni, and we supported Semogere. We had no issues. In 2001, almost in principle, we were not hostile to the Besigye position, as it were. So these will not necessarily be big issues for UPC, except the comparison is given. South Africa, the apartheid regime was collapsing because we were beating them. And so they had to concede, partly because of also global pressure. Anglo-America, that were their traditional backers, were going off. And thanks to Comrade Fidel, these guys had been beaten, particularly in the Battle of Quitcona Valley in Angola. So the Anglo-America-backed Boers were on the retreat. So they either conceded, or they're going to be wiped. And actually the outcome was going to be almost the politics of one Boer, one bullet kind of stuff, meaning that you're absolutely right. In a way, it was a pragmatic concession by the Boers that, these talks took place. It was not because the Boers all of a sudden were enjoying sitting together with the ANC and other players, African players. So that's important. You could say the same in Kenya. As a young student, my brother, that's why I know very much about the badness of education. My brother was a teacher in Kenya, and I know how excellent he was and how they were revered almost like semi-gods. And now that Comrade Museveni has killed the educational system. And I say that as a son of a grade 1 teacher, and I say that as someone who was I went to via 2-3 primary schools in the last weekend in the East, and I saw what was going on. But so in Kenya, beyond Moi, Oginga's dad and others actively managed to mobilize. And that's why I was trying to talk about the duplicity. Beyond Ford Asili and Ford Kenya mini split, there are really not many political positions, but mostly also there was apparent leadership, faces and voices that were clearly anti-Moi. In fact, in the early 80s, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was so lonely a voice that he couldn't hear anybody else, and it looked so pathetically impossible. And that's one of the reasons maybe that gives me the drive, that there's nothing which is impossible in this place. To the extent that within a few years, Moi was away, and of course Jaramogi was an old man who was going. Point is, in Kenya again, Moi conceded because there was a wave, as it were. In Zimbabwe, neither here nor there. But that said, back to Uganda, we need to have a willing partner on the table. Mr. Museveni is not a willing partner. Mr. Museveni has not shown any willingness. Ask Kaira asks Semogere, of course, very sad guys, unfortunately, they've all gone, and you've seen some of these stories. Ask some of his own friends, who some of them went ahead and formed the FDC. Some of these big names that I don't want to talk about, sometimes you talk to some of these people on one-to-one, they want to shed tears about how much Mr. Museveni has betrayed them. Fast forward to where we are, see even what happened with the Kony thing. Had Museveni been a willing player, we were the ones who pushed for talks. UPC were the lead political player pushing Museveni's friends abroad to force Museveni roundtable. Even then, Museveni went to Juba, with a quarter hand. Hence, the failure managed to stabilize Acholi. But where is Kony, on the roundtable? Kony maybe should be Moses' deputy, or Musozi, actually, Musozi, the young boy should possibly Kony's deputy in Ministry of Defense, something like that. Did it happen? It did not. No. I don't know any peace agreement that Museveni has made with anybody that has held, except people say with the guys from West Nile, meaning Amin's friends, people who were Moses' allies. That said, if Mr. Museveni is willing to participate, as I said, as a matter of principle, UPC is. Generally, I still insist Uganda's opposition need to sort out, we just need to sort out our houses. We need to sort out our leadership. We need to sort out our structures. We need to clarify our messages. We need to come out with a coherent and clear message. We need to engage with the Ugandan populace, therefore, and then create a critical mass of Ugandans so that by the time and whenever we are talking to Museveni, we are taken to Museveni from a point of strength rather than current state in which we're basically minimally, barely beggars. If there are leaders, if there are leaders in opposition who are genuine leaders, they should take what I'm saying. But the problem is that some people are quite clearly opposition leaders using political positions for their pocket change, and some people are leaders in opposition because they've also been compromised. But I also think that individuals and members of political parties, including people in the media like yourselves, you should be able to know us and people in politics to know who is, Ugandans like use the word fake, who is real. So it's a problem, but it's not impossible. But I also totally agree with Gideon. The alternative for Mr. Museveni is worse. Anything other than a political settlement is not in Mr. Museveni's interest. It is certainly not interested in the Republic of Uganda. Like I said earlier, in UPC's case, for us, Uganda is far more important than UPC. We really don't want anything that will be anything that causes violence, suffering, and destruction of life. Unfortunately, the longer that takes place without it, the more Museveni thinks he's going to monopoly of violence, and he thinks impossibilities because nobody can challenge him. That is absolutely wrong, and especially because there are many more younger, angry Ugandans from the ghetto, worse ghetto than my experience to ghetto, and my own home in Agongre, which is relatively an okay place, my home. But I look around my immediate own relatives and I see the squalor in which they live and the impossibilities of a future. No, Uganda is a time bomb. The ball is not with opposition in this finality. The ball is with Mr. Museveni. Mr. Museveni just needs to wake up and look back to 1966 that he boasts about, come here, engage Mr. Jesus, engage the Rohama gods that his wife promised that, because I'm told Janet says the God spoke to her to stand in Rohama. Engage the Rohama gods. The gods will tell him that, look, you've had a little bit of it, have a little bit of humility. Ochienos have guaranteed you a safe exit. This country is bigger than yourself.
I want you to go with this, as you conclude, if you can do it in like a minute or so at most. With politics as it stands, and the money, of course, that is involved, the prohibitive costs that are there, how do you advise, or how do you think the young people, the youth, can participate?
The answer lies in leadership. The answer lies in some of the work that some of us are doing. In the event that we've got a clarity of leadership and clarity of message, and in the event that we engage particularly young people and told them and showed them that the trillions that the Musevenis are throwing around are their money, the more likely we shall be able to have young people who are willing to participate, to offer themselves, to sacrifice, knowing that they're sacrificing by saving their monies of the future. That the more they continue with shortchange, like I told a group of young people in Toronto, since within 1 minute. In one election, I met some boy who had finished senior 6, And I told him that you look handsome and you're here boasting around girls. Are you really telling me that, well, the 1,000 shillings that Ochieno is going to give you is something that makes you content for another 5 years? Put it in that way to them. The boy suddenly realized that, this 1,000, am I worth 1,000 shillings in 5 years? No, when we engage these guys and we engage the so-called elites, and then told them that, well, you may be given even 1 million shillings, but when the medical emergencies comes to you, as Gideon is talking about, you'll be looking for 10 million shillings that you don't have. And for me, I'm beginning to get very shy about these things that happen in social media. Oh, so-and-so, and there is a medical thing, we're fundraising for so-and-so for medical treatment. The people who are putting those things on social media, every other time you tell them that thieves have stolen Mabati, they are quiet. You see what I'm saying? We need to waken up the majority of young people. I genuinely believe that if 35-year-olds and younger woke up to 50% of them merely and started roaring with Ochieno, you will see the change in this country. You will see how the generals salute me and then, yes sir, you will see.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Mr. Tugume, as we conclude, and altogether the concluding words.
You see,
there's this question. It was sort of, I'll try to make it understandable. Where you did say that we literally don't have the opposition. And that's fair by judgment. But you're also saying that we want to change. So should Museveni decide that he's stepping on today, are you, the opposition, ready to take on the matter?
not opposition, but Ugandans can.
Who are the Ugandans?
No, I can't say who, in the Bible, God had selected David for 20 years when he had removed the king who was Solomon by then. He had removed him 20 years while preparing David. So even today, God has already prepared someone who is going to be the next president of this country. But I'm telling you, in the situation where we are in is very tense. Mobilizing the preparation, as my brother was saying, is not easy. It doesn't take 2 years. You need a lot of time and money, which we don't have. For oppositions who are genuine oppositions in the government are not getting anything. They don't have money. They're extremely poor. So by that, you cannot mobilize anybody. Whom will you tell? When you look at the preparation now, 40-something million, 3 million are the jobs we're waiting for. These are political positions. 3 million Ugandans. These are political positions in the country, 3 million. So everybody is running, apart from the border, which people now are taking as the source of employment. Now, politics is also another source of employment. So people will spend a lot because they know that is the only source of employment. So there is no plan by this government that is planning to give employment to the people, to the youth, and the rest of the people, so that they can be able to participate in the economy of Uganda. So there is that kind of, imbalance. And that imbalance cannot be, concluded now. We need time. So if we don't have time, why don't we save 1.3 billion so that we can spend it in a different way? Even we can spend that money by skilling Ugandans. We skill them on how to be self-reliant. Because we are saying we don't have money. The schools are closing, we don't have money. Do you know that primary teachers' colleges are all closed now? They are actually not closed. The tutors are getting salaries, but there are no students going to do the primary school.
So we extend by how long? Roughly?
Yes, we extend by a period of 5 years. By 5 years.
So this bunch of poverty thieves continue?
Yes. No. You see, the poverty thieves you are talking, you are not removing them because you can't remove them. You can't remove them by
So
force
have we
right
become
now.
so desperate that we are quite content to acknowledge that the thieves in position that we can't remove?
Joseph, I'm giving you what I'm seeing that is possible for our country.
As you conclude,
That even if you do what, they will keep on stealing. Even if you do what? Right now, I've been reading here that a certain minister took 28 billion, which was meant for Myoga, and he took it for himself. And there is nothing that is going to happen. Recently, when they stole the Kalamajong iron sheets, whom did they take to court? They only took 2, I think, even for the purposes of the media. So in the real sense of the fact, you cannot stop them from stealing. They have all the capacity to continue stealing. Even if you go and demonstrate, they have the capacity to continue stealing for the next 5 years. So what we should do, let us force these people into negotiation for a national unity government, so that government we come together and we share the positions we can offer. There are some of us who can offer good governance. I know with us, the problem we have that we don't sit in the cabinet to tell them that what we are doing is wrong. We don't sit with them in parliament because we are not there. But if yes, so if we can be together in the government, I know, Joseph, you cannot allow something to go bad when you are there. So in reality, it is very, very important that we keep peace. But we are giving this option to President Museveni and the NRM government. If they don't want and they say they don't want, then we can, using our own means, mobilize our own people who are seeing really what we are doing, and who are seeing that there is no any other option. The elections is a sham. Any mobilization is not allowed. So what can we do? Forcefully, we go on the streets and demonstrate and remove the government and take over power. But what will come out will not be good for us. Okay. As you can take over power, then a general can come up. You find we have warlords. One takes up north, another on south, another on west, another on east. Even me, I can take over the other side of Kawempe, and I be there, I'm a warlord. Okay. And I start also mobilizing some taxes. Yes, so to avoid that, it is in the favor, actually, it is in the benefit of the government and President Museveni that we go for negotiation for a national unity government.
I just want to conclude in 30 seconds that unfortunately I will not agree with the narrative. I agree with the principle of national unity government, and I agree with the principle of us talking. But I don't want us to leave here with a suggestion almost that is now a fait accompli. You know, I want to suggest that in politics, and I've seen it around the world, including today, and I've seen mighty generals, you know, some of them much stronger than the slippers walking guys from Luero that I saw, you know, that is possible. You know, one trigger can happen and immobilize the country within one day is a very long day in politics. So a trigger can happen in this country, and within 1 week, this country has fundamentally changed.
I don't refuse that.
And that trigger does.
The trigger is bad for the country. The trigger is bad for the country.
With respect, let me just conclude. That trigger does not have to be violence. That's what I'm trying to say. It is possible to mobilize people in this country around a specific issue, by a specific sense of leadership, you know, to make sure that people wake up in this country.
It has not happened anywhere in the world. It has not.
Well, you know,
in Libya, when they were mobilized, they killed Gaddafi, and you see what is happening. In Somalia, when they mobilized, they removed Farai did, and what is happening in Somalia. So there is complete.
I'm not talking about Libya. I'm not talking about Somalia. For those of us in UPC, if we wanted, Museveni would not be in power, and he knows it. You know, we are simply saying, is it possible to organize and mobilize Ugandans through civil and civic means, with a leadership to make sure that changes do take place? And I reject the idea that we can actually keep a bunch of thieves, you know, stealing for 5 years because we don't have capacity to do that. Right. That's an extremely dangerous message.
Are you standing? Are you standing?
But I'm here. I'm being wrong.
No, if you stand, then I will see whether you will.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your insights, of course, for the knowledge and the wisdom you have shared. We have learned a thing or two. And I do implore every other person who is on the other side of that camera to do share this show, that among yourselves, so that we learn a thing or two. We pick a leaf where we think this can work, what can work, and how can we contribute to that. So thank you so much for being with us. Of course, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here. And so thank you. I want to appreciate the people I've worked with, the lady behind the camera, Lillian, Arnold and Ali, and the other gentlemen who are in the control room. I thank you so much for making sure that this show has happened. From myself, Roger Stoyabwe, and the whole team, have yourselves a very good night.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.